welcome. I'm Brent Smith, and this is the Common Constitutionalist weekly podcast, weekend podcast. I'd like to say Christmas edition, but it ain't going to be very Christmassy. Sorry about that, but I just had a couple of topics that I wanted to discuss, and so therefore, that's just the way it's going to have to be. We got plenty of Christmas stuff coming up for the balance of the day on my site, and also on Christmas Day. I've got a little something. So anyway, today we're going to do a couple of articles. Hopefully we'll get through both of them. The first one is the GOP tax plan through the eyes of liberal, we'll just say leftists, New York City leftists, with a little bit of a twist. We'll put it that way. And the second one is the Twitter war. We'll just leave it at that. Twitter war of leftists. And that's what we're going to be discussing today on the Common Constitution. All right, this first one comes to us from the Daily Wire. And it begins as conservative commentator Ami Horowitz recently took to the streets of the liberal Mecca, East Village, New York City. Is that the Lower East Side, I guess it is? Something like that. To see how diehard progressives felt about the Republican tax reform bill that Democrats have literally declared the end of the world, or as Nancy Pelosi puts, Armageddon. Because everything that the Republicans do, certainly that Trump does, is Armageddon, you see. So Horowitz asked several passers-by for their reaction to specific measures in the bill. Shockingly, he found that they uniformly loved it. Well, at least when he presented it as the Bernie tax plan. And there's actually a video on the Daily Wire regarding this, or you could probably find it on YouTube, Ami Horowitz, Republican tax plan, or something like that. At any rate, it starts, quote, the Republicans recently voted on a new tax proposal, and predictably the Democrats didn't like it, says Horowitz in the intro of his digital short. But what if they thought the Republican plan was actually Bernie Sanders' proposal? We presented them with the Republican tax plan, these leftist passerbys in the East Village. You kind of don't even have to say leftist passerbys, because any passerby in the East Village, unless they're just visiting or they're lost, is a leftist. So we presented them with the Republican tax plan and pretended that it was in fact Bernie's plan. What do you think happened? Yes, it's predictable what happened. Horowitz begins by asking interviewees, most of whom appear to be millennials, and yeah, they did, all but maybe one, I think, how they feel in general about the Republican tax plan. Quote, I'm going to be honest with you. Usually the first thing that they say when somebody usually says, well, honestly, or I'm going to be honest, or let's be frank, they're planning on not being frank, and they're not being honest. But at any rate, I'm going to be honest with you, he says. I feel like this is just another excuse for rich people to get a break on having to pay taxes like the rest of us hard-working people have to pay, unquote, says one guy in a hella hat. I don't know what a hella hat is. I saw it, and I still don't know what a hella hat is. It's just a ball cap with hella on it. I don't know. For those who know, terrific. Bully for you. Quote, it doesn't have much stuff in it for the middle-class working Americans, I think, says one scarf-wearing girl, who adds, but that's just what I've heard. And there's the key point, or the crux of this whole thing, is that most of these people, left, right, middle, whatever, no one's going to read the bill, but they don't really look into the minutia of the bill, or any particulars of the bill. They don't read any of the summaries of the bill, nothing regarding the tax plan, which is law now. All they do is they listen to one another or they watch CNN, or they go on Twitter and they get all their news from Facebook and Twitter from people of like mind, and they never branch out. Unlike us, who like to watch and listen to both the left and the right, and then you can make up your mind, A, who's right, who's righter, or who has a good point and who doesn't, or whatever. At least that's what I do. So anyway, quote, "It seems like the middle class is going to get hit pretty hard here," unquote, says a guy in sunglasses. Okay. Quote, "They suck. They..." This one guy, a smiling guy, says about the Republicans, "They suck. They all suck." But that's just what I heard. Quote, "There's a lot about this current proposed tax plan that's just ridiculous," says a dude with an impressive beard. And he did have a really impressive beard, although it was a little scraggly. But apparently scraggly beards are in style nowadays. The old mountain man look. I'm not sure what the story is on that, but such is it. Such is life. So then Ami Horowitz switches it up, and he presents the details of a Bernie supposed competing plan, which is actually just the malign Republican plan. All of the interviews changed their tune dramatically, and it is. And I encourage you to watch this video. Maybe I'll put the link up there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that, but at any rate, it is. It's. I would say it's masterful, but you really don't need to be that masterful when you're dealing with these people that only know what they heard. Horowitz asked one guy if he's if he's feeling the burn, and he says yes, definitely. I would ask if you're feeling the ignorance, because that's exactly what you'll be feeling if you're feeling the burn, because Bernie Sanders doesn't have a tax plan out there currently. And if he does, I don't know about it. So the people who just blasted the Republican plan tell Horowitz that they like the idea that most families of four making $50,000 or less are not having to pay any taxes at all, doubling the child tax credit from $1,000 to $2,000, people with mortgages over $750,000 having to pay more. So he presented it as feeling the burn, that the poor and middle class probably aren't going to have to pay much tax, if any at all. If you have children, the child tax credit is going to be doubled, and they love that because it's another subsidy. And people with mortgages over $750,000, the dreaded 1%, the evil rich, are going to have to pay more, and they loved that. All the while thinking that this is Bernie's plan, when it's actually, in fact, the Republican tax law now. And they also they're keeping the Obama-era clean energy tax credits, which I didn't realize. Don't like that at all, but I guess you take the good with the bad at this point, and you get it passed, and you go on, and hopefully they can improve it at a later date, assuming they hold on to anything this coming year. And at least one guy seems okay with the idea that Bernie was lowering corporate taxes. And this was interesting because the exchange... Horowitz presented it as and Bernie is, and he is, I think it said he is going to lower corporate taxes, and the guy looked a little bit confused, but then recalled or remembered that it was the Bernie Sanders plan, ergo, by default, he was okay with it. If Bernie's okay with lowering corporate taxes from 35, and Horowitz did say from 35 to 21%, if Bernie's okay with that, then he must be okay, because that's what he heard, I guess. Quote, "It's fantastic," unquote, says the beard guy of the Bernie plan. "I think that's what," or quote, "I think that's a step in the right direction," said the scarf girl. The scarf girl is the same girl who derided the Republican tax plan, but that's just what she heard. Quote, "It's all just rational with Bernie, and with Trump it's not," says a girl in a larger scarf. I saw that exchange too. And it is absolutely hilarious. And then at the very end, he comes clean with these people, and he says that, in fact, what he just presented as the Bernie plan was in fact the Republican law, and that he didn't say that it already passed or whatnot. This video may have been prior to that, when it was just a bill. I'm just a bill. Yeah, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Yeah, I can't. What was that called? I don't remember, but I remember growing up on it. At any rate, so when Horowitz reveals that he just described the Republican tax plan, most of them agreed that they'd be willing to take a closer look now. You could see the confusion and the conflict in their faces, that they didn't want to. They didn't, because it was a Republican plan, they didn't want to agree with it. They didn't want to agree with any points to it. But because they were just caught by saying that the Bernie plan, which is in fact the identical plan in disguise, is the same thing, they couldn't very well turn around and say, well, now that it's a Republican plan, it stinks. That's ridiculous, and you look like an even bigger fool that you already are. So they looked very confused, puzzled, and conflicted. And so I would love for them to each walk away and say, you know what, maybe I misjudged that. Maybe I shouldn't just go with what I just heard, and maybe I should actually look into the plan to see whether it's fair for all, or more fair, or less fair for the rich, or whatever it happens to be. But I fear that they probably won't, because on camera that they're going to say, well, yeah, maybe I'll take a, or in person, one-on-one, they would probably take a closer look. And if he actually handed them the bill and say, well, if you've got a couple of minutes, let's go through this line by line and give me your opinion on this, regardless of whose plan it was, I think that you could probably get through to these people. The problem with this is that they're going to leave the camera. They're going to walk away, and they're going to go back to the hive mentality. They're going to go back to their collective, to their friends, and their friends, they won't. I don't even think that they can say anything like, hey, did you guys know the Republican tax plan does X, Y, and Z? I don't think that they could say it, because they would be outcast from the hive or the collective. I just don't think that that's going to happen, and so soon after that, they will just go back to the status quo of being leftists just for the sake of being leftists, and this will be all for naught, other than to prove a point. I would love it to be able to prove a point and to get through to some of these people that it's not really as bad as all that, and it's not really as bad as Schumer and Pelosi and these people make it out to be, like the end of the world or Armageddon. It's just not. Is it great? No, not in my opinion. But I'm a constitutional conservative, so anything short of that isn't going to be great. It may be good, and it's going to help a lot of people, as it already has, as we've seen 2 more corporations have signed on to the bumping up of salaries and Christmas bonuses. And believe you me, the employees who, a lot of them probably vote Democrat at some of these big corporations, might actually take a second look and say, you know what, maybe this isn't so bad. Look at what I just received just prior to Christmas. What a deal. Maybe I can pay off one of my credit cards. Who knows what they'll say or what they'll think. Probably won't say much, but maybe they'll think it, and maybe, just maybe, there'll just be a kernel of truth in there that gets planted, a seed, and you never know where that could lead. It could change some minds. And people have a tendency, everybody thinks that the generic ballot going into 2018, I'm done with this, but the generic ballot going into 2018, it shows that the Republicans are going to get whitewashed. They're going to get wiped out. They're like, the generic ballot is Democrats plus 18 or something like that. It's absurd. It's just a complete whitewash. But if you recall from the 90s, it's the economy stupid. Well, it still is the economy stupid. People, when they get into that booth, that polling booth, to vote, they vote their pocketbooks. And they look at their checking accounts and their savings accounts and the bonus and the increase in pay and the increase in hourly wage that they just got less than a year ago. And they see how much more that they've been able to do with that. and they vote their pocketbooks. So I don't think it's going to be the lambasting that people think once this thing really starts kicking in February. And it's only going to get better as corporations understand how many millions and billions of dollars collectively they're going to be saving from going to from 35% corporate rate to 21%. That is incredible. Whether it's going to repatriate everything, I don't know, but it certainly is going to help. It's going to be a huge deal. And then come tax time, it's even going to be a bigger deal for people that don't have to waste their money doing their taxes online, hiring an accountant. They can do their taxes virtually on one piece of paper or a postcard, and then they're done. And they get a refund or whatever it happens to be because of the addition of the child tax credits and other credits. This could be a major windfall for the Republicans come 2018. And I would just be patient listening to these early poll numbers that don't mean squat. You can't predict anything this far out. Heck, they couldn't. Look at the last presidential election. What was it, a day before the election? It was going to be the morning of the election. Trump was going to have his blank handed to him on a silver platter. But look how it turned out. It's just the reality is usually in elections completely different, particularly this far out from the perception. And that's all I'm saying, is that people vote with their pocketbooks, and maybe even some of these people are going to look into changing their votes when they're alone, when no one knows what they're up to. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our second segment, and that's it. Okay, welcome back. Oh, you'll notice I'm wearing my Patriots jersey. This is Teddy Bruschi. He's the quintessential New England Patriot. He retired, I don't know if it's several years ago, but at least a few years ago anyway. Many, not many moons, but some years ago. And met him once at training camp. Great guy, and just like I said, tough as nails, quintessential Patriot. And so I'm wearing this because we clinched the division playoffs, blah, 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 blah. And we're heading toward home field advantage on all the way again. It must get boring for us. It doesn't, but it must get tiresome for you people out there who aren't Patriots fans. And I really do apologize because over the years between the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Celtics, and the Bruins over the past couple of decades, we've really known not a whole lot other than winning around here in New England, and we have gotten frankly spoiled rotten. If we don't at least make it to the AFC title game, like every year as Patriots fan, and I'm not a real big fan of other sports. I do watch some hockey every once in a while. Baseball bores the crap out of me. I watch college lacrosse because I love it. I played it. It's a lot of fun. I'm not a big basketball fan, but for me, it's basically football, college football, NFL football. It's the way it is. And so, for us, for almost 20 years now, as Patriots fans, we've known nothing but winning. So, like I said, if we don't get to at least the AFC title game, if not get to the Super Bowl and win it, that year was a disappointment. And that's sad to say, considering how many other teams just struggled to make it to the playoffs. Heck, they struggled to make it to a 500 record. Then they struggled to make it to the playoffs in the wild card round. Then they struggled to get anywhere beyond that. And then the select few, and it's usually us and the Steelers or the Ravens or something like that. Used to be the Broncos, but no more. This is going to be a year of a real. It's going to be a very interesting year, a parody, because there's a lot of teams that never used to be there that are pretty blanking good. On the NFC side, the Eagles and the Rams. How did I get on? Oh, yeah, the Teddy Bruschi thing. Sorry, but I'm a huge football fan, as most people all know. And so there you go. That's why I'm wearing the Bruschi jersey. Love me some Bruschi, baby. All right, so anyway, this next segment is from the Conservative Tribune, but it's also referencing another Daily Wire article. So apparently if you're a liberal, it's okay to call for the death of a congressman. You wouldn't think so, but evidently it's okay. That's what some on Twitter have resorted to after Representative Steve Scalise voted in favor of the GOP's tax bill. In fact, some have even asked the guy who shot Scalise to finish the job he started. Oy. Back in June, members of the Republican Congressional baseball team gathered together to practice. You all remember this. And it was that lone gunman that took a rifle out and shot 4 people, including Representative from Louisiana, Steve Scalise, who was seriously injured. But he's made it back. He looks like I guess he's in full health. He looks like it anyway. So you remember the shooter, the James T. Hodgkinson, and he's a whack job. I guess he still is a whack job leftist, as you would think, and that it's not some gun-toting NRA guy. It's a whack job leftist with a rifle and handguns, I think. At any rate, just like the last people in the East Village, he was also a wacky Bernie supporter, but he really took it to the nth degree, if you recall. So Scalise later recounted on, after he got back, he recounted on how it was God who helped him through the horrifying situation. He said, quote, "It starts with God. I'm definitely a living example that miracles really do happen," unquote. And boy, I'll tell you, considering his injuries, it was a daggum miracle that they got to him and were able to get him assistance right away. And a lot of people put themselves in harm's way just to do that. So bully for them. Fast forward to today, the article reads, and it's been 2 months since Scalise has returned to Congress. However, it looks like Scalise is once again under fire, figuratively speaking. I got a little parched. Hey, look, it's a Patriots Cup. Tom Brady and who else? Teddy Bruschi. Yeah, baby. Woohoo! Couldn't resist. So anyway, Scalise was a key player in helping the Republicans pass their key tax reform bill. He even helped usher the tax cut through the House twice, as you remember, because of some sort of Senate screw-up or some sort of Senate rule. The Republican House voted yay the first time, sent it to the Senate, and then they had to come back and vote on it again, and yay, they did again. And then the Trumpster signed it into law. Hooray for the Trumpster. So now the Daily Wire reports that some Twitter users want Scalise's shooter to complete the killing of Scalise. Luckily, the Daily Wire was able to grab the tweets before the users had to delete them. Shocking. So if you weren't aware of this now, you wouldn't be aware of it because the tweets are down, and you can't find them anymore. So the first tweet was from, or one of the tweets was from John S., the Shermanator. Wow, what a tough guy. He says, "Seriously, I hope the next maniac has a bump stock and a silencer and is a better shot. You're a disgrace to America. Sincerely, a moderate." Yeah, that sounds like a real moderate, doesn't it? Sheesh. Another one, NPG Man. NPG Man. Or Tony. Yo, Tony. Too bad that baseball diamond shooter... let's go. Too bad that the baseball diamond shooter's aim was so bad. You're a vile traitor. That was to Steve Scalise. Have you heard any of this on CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, any of these places? No? You haven't heard it on headline news? No, you haven't? I'll be darned. Wonder why. Could you imagine the uproar if Republicans called for... This is the Conservative Tribune writing. Could you imagine that the uproar if Republicans called for Gabby Gifford's shooter to finish the job? Could you imagine the hue and cry, the wails and the gnashing of teeth, it would be, the left would go into meltdown, and frankly, everybody should go into meltdown over this because it's abhorrent behavior. The media would be crucifying the Republicans for the next 20 years over it, and you're darn right they would. And not deservedly so, not for 20 years, obviously. That's in a bit of an embellishment. But if some Republican congressman or senator came out and said something like this, oh, geez, that'd be the end of it. He'd be gone tomorrow. That'd be it. Well, I'll leave it alone. Or conservatives insisting that would be much better off. Oh, and I added this, basically. Conservatives insisting that we'd be much better off if Sirhan would have finished the job and taken out Ted Kennedy, too. Because, as you know, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Then Robert Kennedy was assassinated by Sirhan, and he should have taken out Ted Kennedy, too. Could you imagine what would happen if somebody had said that? Or, frankly, even right now. I mean, Kennedy's been dead for years now. If somebody said that now, could you imagine the outcry over something like that? Wishing somebody dead, wishing somebody would finish the job, the shooter would finish off Scalise. It's unnerving, is what it is. But there's always a double standard when it comes to liberals. Liberals can get away with these attacks because, after all, the attacks are against mean Republicans. And the folks at the Tribune and the Daily Wire are absolutely correct. It is a double standard. And I would actually go further than that. The radical left, of which these two tweeters are obviously part of, they have no standards at all. They're not double standards, single standards, quadruple standards. They have no standards at all. These guys are lower than low. They're subhumans. Imagine, if you will, living in a world where you can just kill off someone for simply disagreeing with you or having a differing opinion or belief. Well, that's right. You don't have to imagine because it's happening right now, and it's called the country of North Korea. You guys want to live in North Korea where the leader can just off you because he demands it? He doesn't like your voting record. He doesn't like what you said. He doesn't like what you wrote. It's not the home of the free, that's for sure. So it's happening right now, if that's what these people want. It's okay when it's not them, but the first time it's them, who's going to come running to the dreaded authorities, the police that they hate too? That's what the first thing that would happen. And not only that, but I thought the liberals wanted guns taken out of the hands of American citizens. And after all that, they are staunch defenders of gun confiscation, not just gun control. They want gun confiscation, but only gun confiscation of the right, of the NRA members, of the responsible gun owners. So this is just, the advocating of finishing off Scalise is just ridiculous, and like I said, it's abhorrent. But it is what it is. This is who these radical leftists are. They are completely unhinged. Everything is political for these people. They don't have any other life other than that. Sure, we write political stuff, and I do my articles and audio articles and podcasts, and most of them are about politics. Occasionally it's something else, but most of it's about politics. But my world doesn't revolve around politics alone. You have to have a balance. You've got to have something else that you're interested in. Otherwise, you become an unhinged whack job like these people on Twitter. So on that, I think we are going to end. It's Christmas Eve. I hope everybody's ready. From what I understand, if you live in a major city, you could order from Amazon this morning, I think by 10 o'clock in the morning, and have it before Christmas. If you ordered from Amazon on Christmas, can you believe that stuff? It's absolutely unbelievable. And frankly, this Santa, I think, set foot in one store, and that was a pharmacy to pick up some incidentals and stuff for Christmas, stocking stuffers and the like. Other than that, I didn't set foot in a single brick and mortar store. Everything was shopped online. Everything came to my office, aka Santa's workshop, and I take an afternoon, tell everybody I'm going to be unavailable, and I go back to the warehouse and I take a workbench and I wrap presents, and that's what I do. And I've been doing this for years now, where I haven't set foot. I don't even know what the inside of the mall of my local mall looks like. I don't know what shopping stores look like. I don't know anything. No, excuse me. I went to one Bass Pro Shop to pick up something else because I just happened to be in the neighborhood. Other than that, everything was online. But again, off on a tangent. So I want to wish everybody a merry and blessed and safe Christmas. If you're traveling, be safe. Hopefully you're already there. If you're doing a day trip, just be safe. Us up here in New England, the weather outside is frightful, brother. It's freezing rain, it's snow, it's icy, it's just nasty all the way around. But we're gonna hunker down, we're gonna stay safe, and we'll talk at you next week. I don't know if it's gonna be, no, it won't be next year quite, but it'll be next week. So Merry Christmas all.